Sharks are the apex predator in our oceans. They have evolved over 400 million years, and in this 400 million years, they have developed a range
of super senses.
Welcome to Ginger Under the Sea, guys. I'm Greg Holder, and today we're going to be looking at one of their incredible super senses, their sight. So let's dive straight in. So first of all, we must look at the anatomy of the shark's eye to understand what and how they actually see. So first of all, what's interesting is sharks don't actually change the shape of their lenses inside their eyeball like we do. In fact, they move the whole lens inside their eye forwards or backwards to focus the image on the back of the retina. So in this way, they're more like the cameras that we use, where we turn the focal ring to move the lens closer or further away in order to get a focused image. This is what sharks are doing. Instead of changing the shape, they're actually moving their lens inside their eyeball to get that really nice focused image on the back of their retina. And also, when we look at the anatomy of sharks' eyeballs, it appears that most sharks can't actually see color, as most sharks that have been studied only possess a maximum of one type of cone cell, where you need at least 2 or 3 different types of cone cell in order to actually see the multitude of color. And this is particularly interesting, as the majority of rays and chimeras, which are sharks' closest relatives in the chondrichthyans, which are cartilaginous fish, actually can see color and have a trichromatic vision, which is really interesting considering their evolutionary path, as this must mean that either sharks have lost the ability to see color over the last 200 million years or so, or in fact that the chimera and the rays have developed the ability to see color and have developed these extra cone cells where sharks haven't, and they have stayed in a black and white world. So sharks do possess rod cells, which are the low light photorecepting cells. So when we look at the ratio between the cone cells and the rod cells, this changes between different shark species according to where the sharks live and how they hunt. Now we can see that shallow water species that are diurnal, which means that most of their activities occur in the daytime, actually have a relatively high ratio of cone cells compared to rod cells. However, when we go to the deep water species, or the nocturnal species, of which the majority of sharks do live below 200 meters, and we can see the ratio in their eyes is heavily focused on the rod cells. And in fact, some of the deep water species that never seem to come up to shallower waters and really see any light actually don't possess any cone cells at all. So therefore, sharks that hunt in the dark or live in the dark depths of the ocean have very, very good low light sight, as they have a huge amount of these rod cells, which are particularly efficient in low light scenarios. For you guys who really want to know a bit more detail, sharks in fact also possess a Tipitum Lucidum, which is a reflective layer on the back of the eyeball, and it sits just below the photoreceptor cells. And what this does is this actually reflects the light after it's come into the eye and gone past the photoreceptor cells. It reflects the light back through these cells, therefore allowing them, the photoreceptor cells, to absorb more light, meaning the animal has a better low light vision. Now this is very common amongst nocturnal vertebrates. And you may have realized now as I'm talking about this that the tapetum is actually what you're looking at when you shine that torch in a cat's eye in your garden and you can see those demon eyes looking back at you. You're actually looking at that reflective surface of the Tipitum Lucidum in their eyeball. Boom. Now, since sharks' vision is so important for them to catch prey, they must protect this vital and very vulnerable organ. And sharks do this in a few different ways. For example, the lamniforms or mackerel sharks, which are the great whites and the makos, they actually roll their eye back into its eye socket when they are going in for a bite in order to protect their eyeballs from teeth or any claws from predator or prey. And so when they roll their eye back, they expose the sclera, which is a hardened, tough surface on the back of the eyeball. And I'm sure most of you will have seen this happen if you've ever watched any sort of great white shark footage where you see the shark coming up to bite the bait or anything. You will see that they roll their eye back, and what you'll be looking at as they go for that bite is the sclera on the back of the eyeball. Now, what other sharks do, such as the kakihiniforms, they actually possess a nictitating membrane, which is like a hardened lower eyelid that sits just under their eyeball. And they will use this and they'll lift this up to cover their eyeball again when they go in for a bite or when there is any danger to their eyeball getting damaged. As you can see here, they will just lift up that hardened case from underneath their eye and it just protects the eyeball from any sort of damage. Now, the position of the shark's eyes dictates their field of view, and there are some sharks that have very specialized positions, such as bottom dwelling sharks like angel sharks, and vast majority of the rays have their eyes very dorsally placed, which means that it's placed on the top of their head. And this means that they have a very good view of everything that's going on above them, any dangers, any prey, any opportunities. However, this does mean that they have almost no view of what is going on below them. Now, this isn't a problem for most of those sharks. As I said, they're bottom dwelling sharks, so they are most of the time resting on the seafloor, and therefore they have nothing to worry about below them because they are laying on the sand. Now, the majority of pelagic or mid-water swimming sharks have their eyes positioned laterally, which means on either side of their head. And this means the sharks have a very good view below them, above them, and on their left and their right side. So they have an almost 360-degree field of view. Now, the only problem with this setup of having eyes on the sides of their head is that even though they have an almost 360-degree view, they have very little visual overlap from one eye to the other. And therefore they have very bad binocular vision. And therefore they don't have a particularly good sense of depth perception. So this is where our eyes on the front of our head, there's a lot of overlap from my left and my right eye, therefore I have very good depth perception as my eyes can work out the difference between both images. Where when the eyes are on the side of the head, since there's very, very little overlap of those images, the sharks can't work out the depth as well as an animal with eyes on the front of their head like humans. However, the hammerhead species have once again trumped almost all other sharks in this sense, as since their eyes are much wider apart, again being on the edge of their cephalofoils, not only do they have a 360-degree field of view, but in fact they have a better overlap in front of them, meaning that they have better binocular vision, which means they actually have better depth perception than most other sharks. So there you go, hammerhead sharks smashing it up again, showing us how epic evolution is and why they are the most recent sharks to come into existence, and they have evolved most recently with some epic advantages. So that's it for shark sight, guys. So sharks have adapted their sight according to where they hunt. The majority of those sharks have very, very good low light vision. And sharks have a few different ways to protect their precious sense of sight, either rolling their eye back or using a nictitating membrane to cover over their eyes. And also, most sharks have almost a 360-degree field of view. However, the hammerheads have gone one better and got a 360-degree view and also better binocular vision and therefore depth perception. Now, even though their sight is extremely powerful, sharks use all of their senses combined in order to become the top predator in the ocean. So make sure you check out the other videos about shark senses on my channel in order to know how they use all of these senses to become such an incredible, evolved super predator that they are today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then please do smash the like button, show me some love. Make sure you subscribe to my channel to continue learning about sharks, the marine environment, and marine conservation. Thank you so much for joining today, guys, and I will see you at the next one. Tipitum Lucidum, Tipitum Lucidum, Tipitum Lucidum.